Welcome to datascience.show, the podcast where data science meets executive leadership. We talk with top AI and analytics thought leaders about turning data into real business impact. If you're a C-level leader or data expert shaping the future, you're in the right place.
Welcome to datascience.show. I'm Mirko. Today, we're talking about something every leader quietly hopes will never land on their desk: the cost, risk, and reputational hit from AI systems nobody ever retired. Imagine a credit risk model that quietly ran for 18 months after a data pipeline change and started declining approvals subtly, costing the business millions before anyone noticed. That's not an engineering failure alone, it's a governance and leadership failure. In the next 40 minutes, I'll give you a practical, decision-first playbook to identify retirement signals, make hard choices, and run a 30-90-day program to decommission or replace models safely so you don't keep subsidizing yesterday's intelligence. Turning data into business impact means knowing when to stop. Why this matters now: models age, environments change, vendors sunset, and regulations shift. If you've built an organization that can deploy models quickly, you must also build the discipline to retire them deliberately. My promise: by the end of this episode, you'll have a simple rubric to score candidates for retirement, concrete transition patterns you can task your teams with, and a 30-90-day checklist you can hand to your COO or CDO. No fluff, just board-ready actions. Where data science meets leadership, clarity over complexity. Let's start with signals, the hard evidence that a model should be considered for retirement. First, performance drift. That's not just an ROC curve tick, it's business KPIs diverging from expectations, higher false positives, increased customer complaints, manual overrides rising month over month. Second, rising run rate. If the operational cost to keep a system alive, compute, review cycles, on-call time, keeps growing relative to its contribution, that's a retirement bell. Third, opportunity cost. If maintaining the model prevents projects that could generate larger margin or strategic differentiation, that's a candidate. Fourth, vendor or upstream sunset. When a supplier retires a component or changes contract terms, you need a plan immediately. Finally, compliance or contractual triggers. A regulation change, new data retention limits, or a contract that suddenly requires different provenance. For each signal, record a KPI, an owner, and a measurement frequency. Without a metric, you don't have a signal, you have an opinion. How to measure those signals practically. Set a small dashboard for retirement monitoring. Include 3 things for each model: trend in business outcome, weekly, cost to serve, monthly, and dependency score. How many downstream consumers would break if this went away? Use a simple 1 to 5 score for each axis so you can compare apples to apples. Example: a model with small but rising drift, cost to serve of 4 out of 5, and dependency score of 2 might be a candidate for wrap and control. A model with catastrophic regulatory exposure and a dependency score of 5 is a prioritized retirement with a migration runway. That scoring becomes your intake for the decision rubric we'll use next. Decision time: retire, replace, repurpose, or wrap with compensating controls. Simple rubric: score value, risk, and debt. Value is current and projected business impact over 12 months. Risk is regulatory, reputational, and downstream operational exposure. Debt is accumulated technical cost and fragility, how brittle the model and its data pipelines are. Total the scores and map them to 4 actions: high value, low risk, low debt, replace and invest. Low value, high debt, retire. Low value, low risk, low debt, repurpose or archive for analytics. High risk, moderate value, wrap. Apply compensating controls like human in the loop, throttling, or stricter acceptance thresholds while you design a replacement. I recommend producing a 1-page decision memo for each candidate. The 3 scores, recommended action, estimated timeline, and name of the accountable executive. That memo is your board-ready artifact. Let's walk through calibration examples so this rubric isn't abstract. Example 1. A fraud model with stable predictive power but rising compute costs because it runs full feature enrichment on every transaction. Value is high, risk is medium, debt is high. Action: replace or re-architect for feature efficiency, short runway but funded. Example 2, a personalization model using a vendor API that announced end of life in 6 months. Value moderate, risk high because of contractual uncertainty, debt uncertain. Action: dual run validation with an in-house variant and a vendor exit clause review. Example 3, a legacy scoring system with weak evidence of benefit and many downstream copies. Value low, risk medium, debt high. Action: retire and archive with discovery gates to find downstream consumers. These calibrations help your steering committee move from debate to decision.
Now, the operational blueprints, the play patterns teams will actually execute. Pattern 1, dual run validation. Run the new candidate in parallel with the old model for a defined period. Compare business KPIs in production and monitor rollback criteria. Pattern 2, canary to rollback. Release the replacement to a small percentage of traffic with automated rollback triggers tied to business KPIs. Pattern 3, frozen read-only archives. For audit and analytics needs, freeze the model and data in a read-only state and expose a query interface for internal analysis, but stop active decisioning. Pattern 4, staged feature toggles. Expose a toggle for risky features so product teams can progressively tighten or loosen the model's influence. For any of these, you need observability defined not just on model metrics, but on business outcomes, request latency, and downstream queue sizes. Define rollback criteria upfront. What exact KPI deviation and for how long triggers an automatic rollback? Without those, you're flying blind.
Contracts, compliance, and audit, where retirements often stall. First, involve legal early. Have a checklist. Data retention obligations, contractual notice periods, vendor exit clauses, audit trail requirements, and evidence for regulators that you preserved provenance during migration. Maintain a decommissioning log that records who approved the sunset, when the model was frozen, and the archived artifacts. If you operate across jurisdictions, add a jurisdictional review step to the governance gate. Data retention rules differ, and you need that sign-off. For regulated models, plan for attestations and a clear chain of custody for datasets retained for audits. These are documentation tasks, but they're critical board-level protections.
Communications. Treat retirement like any other product change with stakeholders and customers. Internally, run a stakeholder map. Owners, downstream teams, compliance, legal, product, customer success. Communicate timelines, rollback plans, and who to contact if downstream functionality breaks. Externally, be transparent when decisions materially affect customers. A short, factual notice that explains the change, the reason, and mitigations preserves trust. If regulatory disclosure is required, coordinate the messaging with legal. Never surprise your customers or the board. Trust is hard to build and easy to lose.
Budgeting and funding transitions. This is where retirement programs win or die. Stop treating legacy systems as a free resource. Create a sunset budget line, projected transitional engineering cost, validation and QA, customer communication, compliance work, and one-time data migration or archival fees. Present a simple business case. Current run rate versus projected cost after retirement or replacement, plus the avoided risk exposure. Ask for time-boxed transition funding, for example, a 90-day allocation that requires a decision point at the end. That pressure forces prioritization and prevents slow, perpetual maintenance. Remember, strategy before technology. You need executive commitment to fund the unglamorous but essential work of retirement.
Governance. How to stop orphaned models from accumulating. Create a retirement gate in your model lifecycle process. That gate requires an inventory entry, the value/risk/debt memo, legal sign-off, a migration plan, and an accountable owner. Maintain a retirement registry with status: candidate, in transition, frozen, archived, or retired. Include steering cadence, a monthly model review where high-risk or high-debt items are escalated to the Executive Steering Committee. Decision rights matter. Name the approver who can greenlight a sunset and the approver who can block it. Without clear rights, nothing moves.
Finally, the 30 to 90-day playbook. Day 0 to 7, run an urgent inventory of production models, capture owner, business KPI, run rate, and dependency score. Day 8 to 21, score each model with the value, risk, debt rubric. Produce decision memos for the top 10% by either risk or cost. Day 22 to 45, assign transition patterns, dual run, canary, freeze, and archive, and secure 30 to 90-day transition funding for prioritized items. Day 46 to 75, execute transitions for the first wave, run observability and rollback drills, and document legal and audit artifacts. Day 76 to 90, retrospective, update governance gates, and commit registry changes. Deliverables for your COO or CDO, an inventory template, a cost versus replace calculator, a rollback checklist with exact KPI thresholds, and governance language to bake into your model lifecycle. These are the artifacts that turn intention into action.
To wrap up, 3 executive actions to take this week. 1. Commission a 30-day inventory and score your top production models using the value, risk, debt rubric. 2. Allocate a short-term transition budget for the top 2 candidates that are highest cost or highest risk. 3. Institute a retirement gate in your governance process with legal review as a requirement. Do these, and you'll stop accumulating hidden liabilities and preserve strategic optionality. Parting thought. Technology gives you the ability to automate decisions, but leadership creates the discipline to stop them. That's the difference between models and value.
Thanks for listening to datascience.show. If you found value in this episode, subscribe, share it with your network, and join us next time as we explore how data science drives smarter decisions and better business outcomes.